Hello friends, and welcome to the APUSH Dig. This week, our topic is an introduction to the United States during the Gilded Age. This period runs from the end of the Civil War up to the end of the 19th century. Why is it referred to as the Gilded Age? If something is gilded, it means that it is coated in a thin layer of gold. It looks pretty from the outside. This description fits the U.S. in this period, and we could thank Mark Twain for the witty metaphor. In this era, the U.S. economy explodes with industrial economic growth. The richest men in the world lived in the United States. But beneath this new glittering surface, corruption, inequality, and the persistence of racism were all bubbling. The gold paint on the outside couldn't conceal all of this. Let's begin with the big picture here. We need to understand that technological advances, large-scale production methods, and the opening of new markets encouraged the rise of new industrial capitalism in the United States. We can call this the Second Industrial Revolution. So how did the United States become the leading industrial and financial power in the world just decades after enduring a devastating civil war? First, how about the abundant raw materials that were essential to industrialization? Coal, iron, copper, lead, timber, oil, soil, etc. The United States had all of this. Also, there was an abundant labor supply, supplemented by massive immigration, surplus labor. We had an advanced transportation network, especially with the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869. There was plentiful capital to invest in new economic endeavors, and a government-protected, efficient patent system. Finally, we have to look at pro-business government policies, such as high tariffs, that showed that the federal government worked hand in hand to help the powerful corporations. In order to get an understanding of the rise of industrial America in the Gilded Age, we need to examine a few key developments. It's hard to overstate how important railroads were in this era. The incredible amount of rail laid in this era linked the nation and expanded all types of markets. Railroad tycoons became some of the wealthiest men in the nation, but not as wealthy as the richest men in the world at that time, John Rockefeller and his Standard Oil Corporation, and Andrew Carnegie and U.S. Steel. Along with the massive economic transformation of the Gilded Age, American culture was changing as well. 3 new ideas arose in order to justify the gross accumulation of wealth produced by the masses, but held in the hands of the few, the mighty capitalist robber barons. First was the economic notion of laissez-faire, which meant let it be. The myth that the economy works best without government interference. Supporters of laissez-faire economics were firmly against government regulations of industry, against workplace safety, against minimum wages, against maximum working hours. But laissez-faire economics is a false theory. No capitalist economy can ever grow without the direct aid of the government. The federal government in the Gilded Age worked with the industrial and financial capitalists to grow their fortunes. It was the workers who the federal government acted laissez-faire, or hands-off to. Another theory that rose to prominence in this era was social Darwinism, the perversion of Charles Darwin's theories of natural selection and survival of the fittest. Only instead of using it to understand ecology, business leaders used it to justify their dog-eat-dog competition in the so-called free market. In the Gilded Age, all the focus is usually on the mighty robber barons, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Gould, Morgan, Vanderbilt, etc. But what about the workers? What about the people who, with their exploited labor power, produce all of the wealth for the so-called captains of industry? In this era and beyond, labor and management battled over wages and working conditions, with workers organizing labor unions and confronting business leaders. The last thing management wanted to see was their workers organizing and forming labor unions. Management practiced industrial warfare against their workers. Violence was ubiquitous, but still the workers rose up. They built solidarity. They formed unions. Early unions included the Knights of Labor, a national union that tried to organize skilled and unskilled, white and black, male and female workers. The more conservative American Federation of Labor came next, mainly focusing on white, native-born skilled workers. The most revolutionary union of all was the Industrial Workers of the World. Their ultimate goal was for workers to seize the means of production from the capitalists and to build a socialist system based upon meeting the needs of people first, not of capital. The Gilded Age saw many inspiring mass uprisings of workers across the nation, and many ended violently, and many times the workers lost. But they never gave up. We owe all of our labor protections today to those who marched, fought, and died in the labor movement that began in the Gilded Age. Examples of these violent interactions between workers and the forces of the capitalist state included the Haymarket Strike of 1886 in Chicago, the Homestead Strike of 1892 in Pennsylvania, and the Pullman Strike of 1894, also in Chicago. Politically, the Gilded Age was a bit of a stalemate between the two major parties. After Reconstruction ended in 1877, the federal government retreated from taking an active role in trying to improve the lives of the people and instead focused on making America more conducive to big business and wealth accumulation. The Republican Party was known as the Party of Lincoln, supported by social reformers, African Americans, small businessmen, industrial capitalists, Protestants, and temperance supporters. In the Gilded Age, the party moved away from being an anti-slavery party to becoming a pro-business party. The Democratic Party, on the other hand, counted on Southern support from industrial capitalists, Catholics, big city political machines, and immigrant support. Notice how industrial capitalists supported both parties. In the Gilded Age, capital learned how to thrive no matter what party slept in the White House. Finally, let's reflect on big change during the Gilded Age. The U.S. becomes a major international industrial power. This will only continue to grow in the 20th century. Wages for workers increase, attracting immigrants from Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Income inequality widens exponentially as wealth is increasingly concentrated in the richest 1% of America. The Gilded Age produced new cultural and intellectual movements, public reform efforts, and political debates over economic and social policies that the federal government should take.